Welcome to the Women's Football Show here on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm Kerry Pollock. Alison McConnell is here as always, and today our special guest is former Dundee United manager Graeme Hart. Graeme, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So what's been going on? Tell us, what have you been up to?
Just taking in a lot of games. It's been quite refreshing, obviously having a wee break and being able to pick and choose where I go and what I watch. So it's been good to see kind of a lot of SWPL 1 but also a bit of SWPL 2 as well, and yeah, it's been refreshing. Are
you looking to get back into it anytime soon?
Yeah, kind of obviously had that wee break now, so kind of feeling refreshed and ready to go. Just need to see where's right for me and where's the right club. I think it's got to be, the club's important to me. I think it's got to be an ambitious club and one that looks to do what I want to do as well.
Tell us a bit about your background, a degree in sport and exercise. Was it always football management that you wanted to go into?
Well, I think I wanted to obviously be a player, but then when you realise you're not good enough and go to university to study and just love football, and then obviously did a lot of my badges when I was 16, 17 in my early stages, and kind of found myself just trying to understand the game a wee bit more, and then just kind of wanting to be in charge as a sort of my playing days when I was playing junior, and yeah, then just obviously got into the sort of coaching side through the university. That was when I kind of started taking my own team, took the university team, and then started coaching the women's side.
Was it almost 6 years at Dundee United, is that right?
Yeah, so I was there under Gavin Beattie. He brought me in when I was taking the St Andrews Uni team. He brought me in as his assistant, so I was there for about 3 years, and then he obviously moved on, and then I got it on an interim basis for the League Cup, and we managed to get through the group stage, so I think they decided obviously for the club to then give me the job.
How would you look back on your time at United?
Just enjoyable and successful. I think every season we improved, and up until this season we were obviously sitting in 9th when I left, so again it was progression from the 10th place we finished last season. So yeah, just pretty much a lot of success and a lot of enjoyment. Challenging obviously, and a lot of hurdles to overcome, and I think during that time you see the 5 years I was there, but in particular 3 years, the growth of the game. When you have the Rangers and Celtic investing so much money, and then other clubs latching on, Hibs, Hearts doing the same, so it became a real challenge when we got into that top league, but it's something I thrived on and something I really enjoyed.
I can imagine it must be tough when you're part-time and trying to cope against teams who are full-time and have much bigger resources on you.
Yeah, and I think that's a challenge, and I think that's something we don't want to be in that position ideally, but it's something that you've got to embrace. And when you're in that position, I think if you look at the results this season that we had when I was there compared to the last season, we improved, and we beat 2-0 from Celtic, 3-1 from Glasgow City. We took the lead against Rangers after 30 seconds, which was probably the wrong thing to do. But again, I think you see the development, the progression of the players and the buy-in, and I think it's not just, you look across the board, look at Partick Thistle, look at Spartans at the weekend. So again, all these teams are in the same position where they can go and they can challenge the top teams. It's not ideal, you obviously want more investment in the women's game, but obviously at the moment there's not enough clubs doing that.
Your message on social media a couple of months ago, you highlighted the challenges that you faced at United. Was it 7 goalkeepers you went through at the time?
Yeah, that was an interesting time. That was something that was challenging. I think they're still obviously, if you look at them just now, I think they're still going through a couple of goalies since then as well. So from a club point of view, it's not been ideal, and that's just a bit of unfortunate, like a bit of bad luck that can't be helped. And we obviously got Fiona back, that's obviously played in the top league for years for Farmington back in the day and stuff as well. And she hadn't kicked the ball since she retired at the end of last season. She wasn't training with us, but we managed to convince her to come and help us out. So it was difficult for even the back four to come and turn up to a game when the goalie wasn't at training. So these are challenges that people didn't see, and it was hard, but again the players were excellent and they bought into it.
You were at the game at the weekend, of course, against Hamilton Accies. Talk us through it, give us your thoughts.
Well, I went to the game at Accies a couple of weeks ago when Accies won, and I think both games probably went the way they deserved to go. I thought Accies a couple of weeks ago were excellent and deserved the win, and vice versa on Saturday at Tannadice. I thought the first half was pretty even, and then the second half I thought United were the better team and got the goal, and Accies done what Accies do. They stayed in the game, they stayed resilient, and they got the goal, and you think that's it, that's Accies done their job, and obviously United then pop up with a winner, which for me it was deserved over the piece, but again there's a long way to go in that relegation battle. So
just creates that bit of excitement, Alison, across all platforms of the table that we've got.
Yeah, it's so tight at the bottom, tight at the top. I think that's Dundee United and Aki's level now on points at the bottom, and Celtic of course still 2 points out in front at the top end of the table, but I just wonder what impact that defeat to Rangers will have on Saturday. Not just the defeat but the manner of it too. I thought a desperately poor performance for Celtic, and it's a huge week for them now. They've got Glasgow City on Wednesday night and then they've got Rangers next Monday. I just think this will shape their season now. I think the next 2 games will define whether or not they've got the stomach to go on and really claim the title, but I thought they were woefully poor, arguably one of their poorest performances of the season on Saturday.
Yeah, well, Rangers ran out 2-0 winners, goals from Chelsea, Cornet and Kirsty, Howat. Rangers obviously deserving winners in your eyes.
Yeah, I thought they were fairly dominant at times. I just thought Celtic didn't turn up. I can't think of one shot on target that Celtic had across the 90 minutes. I think Natasha Flint had a volley that went wide. I think that was her only real moment, second half moment. It's the only thing that I can really imagine. I can recall that caused any consternation at all, but I thought Celtic were flat. Amy Gallagher came on for the second period. I didn't think she looked fit. They couldn't hold the ball, conceding possession. Natasha Flint was getting really frustrated, so she was coming deeper and deeper, and then of course what was happening was Celtic didn't have an out when they did have the ball. They couldn't get the ball forward. Rangers just picking up. I think you could sense a goal coming from Rangers. I think they'd been knocking at the door. It felt increasingly inevitable, and when they got the first, Celtic then opened up a bit, put Caitlin Hayes up front, left gaps at the back, and Rangers just easily just picked them off and took the second. But I think Celtic will be sore for a few days over that one, because it just wasn't anywhere near the kind of performance that they've produced across recent weeks. They'd gone into the game in the back of an 11-game winning run, scored more goals than any other team in the league, but they looked inhibited. They looked like a shadow of a team, and there was a real lack of belief and conviction about the performance too.
Well, Elena Sadiku certainly agrees with you. She says her team were unrecognisable after the game.
If you look at this game as how it was played, it was not Celtic. It was not us. We were not on from the first minute. I thought that we were not us. We were not confident. We were not brave, and we don't deserve to win because we were not on. And that's something that we need to learn from ASAP, because if we play like this, we were not going to win anything, and that's just the truth.
I think it's a nerves thing, Graeme, with Celtic at the minute.
I think you'll find out over the next couple of games if it's a nerves thing. I think under Elena they've been excellent. I think they've probably took 2 or 3 games to get really into their stride, but since then I actually think they've been the best side over the last sort of couple of months. But I was a wee bit surprised in, as Alison said, the manner of the defeat. It wasn't so much losing, because I think they can all beat one another on their day, but I think it was more the manner of the defeat. So I think that's going to be an interesting thing. Maybe it was a nerves thing. Maybe Elena's first cup semi-final, I don't know, maybe that big stage at Hampden, you don't know. Rangers were there last year, they've done it, an Old Firm game at Hampden, they won it last year, so I don't know, from a group point of view, they've certainly got roughly the same players with a couple more, so I wouldn't have thought it's nerves, but you just don't know, I think, but I think you'll find out in the next couple of games if it was nerves or not.
On the flip side, Jo Potter says her side were super motivated heading into this tie.
It can, but as I say all the time, when you're playing these head-to-heads, that kind of goes out the window, because both teams find an extra 10-15% that they draw on from previous results. I think you saw from our last result against them when we lost, we drew on that today. We put right what we did wrong in that game, and I think both teams seem to do that, and you should do that. Good teams will always draw on previous mistakes, so I think it's important that we took that loss last time and it hurt us, and it needed to hurt us for us to produce that today, because it showed that we definitely learnt from our lessons from last time.
Was it a bit of mind games before kick-off, Ali? Was Celtic doing the huddle, taking a bit too long?
Yeah, I think all that is fine if you can back it up with a performance, but I think when you're resorting to those kind of tactics and then you go on and you don't do yourself justice, I think you've got a bit of egg on your face after it. I think Celtic will be very, very frustrated at the account they gave of themselves. I thought Rangers were by far the better team. I thought they looked head and shoulders above Celtic, and that's not been the case across recent meetings. I think the game at Ibrox, thought Celtic were probably the better team. They won the game at Airdrie last month, but I thought they were desperately poor.
Well, on Sunday it was obviously Hearts that saw past Spartans 3-0. How impressed have you been with Eva Olid, Graeme, and the work that she's doing there?
I think she's done excellent. I remember actually right before she'd agreed to come in and we played them in a pre-season friendly when she wasn't there, but she'd been unveiled as a manager, and I think they'd finished bottom of the league the season before. That was just in my first season. We were looking to obviously get into that league, and I think when you think about where they've came from then to now, it's an incredible, and I think the club got to deserve a lot of credit as well, because they've backed her and they've backed the project that they're trying to do, and I just think they just keep getting better and better. I think over the course of the season, you look, they've picked up, they beat Rangers obviously last week, but they've picked up points against Celtic and Glasgow City as well. So I think just if they can find that wee bit more consistency in next season in terms of winning games more comfortably against the part-time teams and continuing to do what they've done against the big teams, I think they can really go and get into that top three and make it a sort of top 4, top 5.
Yeah. Definitely. First time Hearts history, Alison, they're going to walk out at a cup final. Eva Olid took them to their highest ever finish in the women's top flight. Can you see them, as Graeme said, just reaching new levels every year?
Yeah, I think they'll desperately be pushing it, and I know that they have a plan for the women's team. I know that there's more investment about to go into it. I know that they're keen to sustain the progress that they've made across recent seasons, and I think you can see that progression. Eva was really keen to point out when she went in, they were sitting bottom of the table within a couple of seasons. They're in a cup final, and also for Hearts, they've overtaken Hibs now. Really, when it comes to the Edinburgh rivalry, I think they're just edging Hibs too. I think the gap between Celtic and Rangers just now is probably too big for them. But I think what you've seen this season is we've almost went from a top 3 that were by far and away reaching out against everyone else. I think Celtic and Rangers have kicked on this season. I think they've kicked on ahead of Glasgow City too in terms of resources, investment, squad depth. And I think maybe Hearts might be eyeing keeping pace with Glasgow City. But I think Celtic and Rangers just have that bit much at the minute.
Yeah, well, let's have a look at the games coming up this midweek. We've got Aberdeen and Montrose on Tuesday night. Celtic face Glasgow City, Partick Thistle against Hibernian, Rangers face Hearts, and Motherwell take on Spartans. We have a title race on our hands, Graeme. In your eyes, who's got the bit between their teeth to go to the end?
Before the weekend, you're probably saying Celtic, because they're the formed team, and Rangers obviously had lost the Hearts and they dropped points just before the cup final to Partick and stuff. So before the weekend, you're probably saying Celtic, but the weekend's probably put a lot of doubt in. Has it put doubt in the players' minds as well? And I think Glasgow City will still have a bit to say, and I know they're 6 points behind at the moment, but they're probably too much to do to catch. But I think they can certainly take points off Rangers, Celtic, or both. So I think they'll have a big say in it as well, and they'll keep going to the wire. They never chuck it. So I think it's going to be an interesting finish, and based on probably the weekend, you would probably fancy Rangers, but again, based on before that, you would probably edge for Celtic. So it's
Yeah, Ali Graham's right. It can take 1 or 2 results and it can just totally swing the pendulum in the opposite direction.
I just wonder about the psychology from Saturday, I really do. I would agree with Graeme. I think if Celtic had won that game on Saturday, I think I would have fancied them to go on and win the league. I thought they were so poor. I think they'll know themselves. It has to be better. I know that they'll know they have to give themselves a bit of a shake, but I think Rangers will fancy that they've got the better of Celtic just now, and I think Wednesday night will be interesting to see. It's a huge game for Celtic against the reigning champions. I think Glasgow City were sore about the way they lost to Rangers a couple of weeks ago at Broadwood, competed in the first half, second half. Rangers just steamrolled over the top of them. I think they'll feel as though they've still got a point to prove. It'll be interesting to see just where Celtic are on the back of that, whether or not there's a reaction and a statement reaction that would come, but I think they can't afford to drop anything at all, and I think if they drop points on Wednesday night, I think they'll lose to Rangers next Monday at Broadwood too, that game is. So I think it's a huge week. I think this is a week that will determine who comes out on top in terms of the title race. It's really now whether or not Celtic can recapture the kind of form that they'd shown across recent months, or whether or not now that this is a slump that proves to be fatal.
Do they seem like an injured animal to you, Celtic?
Certainly not on Saturday, no. I thought they were very insipid. I thought they were lacklustre. I thought there was no fight about them. They were toothless, no menace whatsoever. I think they'll badly need to find a cutting edge and a hunger and a spirit about them, because Glasgow City are a very good team too, and I think they'll be irked at their own performances of late too, and how much they've fallen out. And if Glasgow City were to take a win on Wednesday, it opens it right back up again.
Absolutely makes it a 3-horse race once again, Graeme.
Yeah, I think from a neutral you probably want Glasgow City to win, because again, you look at the scenes last year, it was amazing. And what's good about this year is I still feel Hibs and Hearts can take points off the top teams as well. So if Glasgow City do win, there's 3 points between the 3 teams. There's no easy games. Partick drew with Rangers as well. So the top 6 is very competitive, although Rangers, Celtic, we know they've got the more consistency and whatever. On a one-off, we know Hibs, we know Hearts, we know Partick can take points off. So from a neutral, it'd be quite nice to see Glasgow City win and then have a 3-horse race again. But again, it will just be interesting to see how Celtic bounce back after the weekend.
As for Rangers and Hearts, they'll obviously go head-to-head on Wednesday as well. Hunger and spirit will be in abundance within that Hearts squad. They've already beaten Rangers so far this season.
Yeah, and I think for this game I just worry for Hearts a wee bit, because obviously beating Rangers last week, or whenever it was, a couple of weeks ago, winning at the Cup, obviously you'll go and celebrate, you'll go and enjoy it. Do they then have that wee bit of a hangover? Rangers will be ready to go.
It's also a home game for Rangers too. I think they took points off them at the Orium. It's a much tighter pitch, a smaller pitch in their own environment. I think I'd fancy Rangers to win comfortably on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think just based on obviously the Hearts have just beaten Rangers, they've just done amazing to get to a cup final. I think it's just probably going to be that wee bit of tiredness maybe. Maybe we'll be proven wrong.
I think also as well the sheer volume of games now at this point in the season. So last week was a 3-game week, and then of course this week it's the same again, and I think that can sometimes lend itself to unusual results, particularly at the tail end of the week when teams are tired, they're leggy. Some of those Hearts players are still working too. I know they offer full-time contracts, many of them still combine it with work. Celtic too, captain still combines work with playing. And I think when you get to this point in the season and there's a lot of games, I think that's when you can see performances such as Saturday from Celtic's perspective, and maybe a couple of surprises as well.
I think this is where the psychology, as you mentioned, Alison, comes into play a lot as well. When at the weekend you've got a semi-final at what's at stake, and then one of them drops, one of them's out, you need to come in and play the next biggest rival.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of adrenaline too when you're in big semi-finals for the likes of Hearts. You're using up a lot of nervous energy, a lot of adrenaline in that one, and a lot of focus on the week of building up to it, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, you're straight back into a huge game. For Celtic, I think the psychology is very different. I think they'll be asking questions of themselves today. I think it'll take a real long, hard look in the mirror. I know Kelly Clark had said that she had planned on watching the game again over the weekend. She wanted to know where it had gone wrong, why everyone seemed to lack any kind of courage and belief, and she wanted to go and ask all of the players, where has this gone wrong? And I think today will be an interesting meeting for the Celtic players at Barrowfield as they get together, as they analyse what went wrong, and it'll be intriguing to see how they react, because I think it's all or nothing now for them.
Absolutely. Well, Alison said it. We're getting to the nitty-gritty end of the season. Thanks to Alison and to Graeme for joining us. We'll be back next week with some more action to look forward to. Thanks for watching.